And we no look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. No, we ain't giving up no mountain, and we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belong to we. Not the one blue sake, not one rice grain.
COVID-19 tips sponsored by Dex Soap. 1. Practice social distancing. 2. Wear your mask when leaving the house. 3. Wash your hands regularly for 20 seconds using our Dex Soap. 4. Cover your nose and mouth with a disposable tissue or flex elbow when you cough or sneeze. Choose Dex Soap for that extra cleanliness. Dex Soap is affordable and available nationwide.
Kaiser Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaiser Radio.
It is 13 hours 34 in Guyana and right across the Eastern Caribbean. A pleasant good afternoon to you. Let's quickly remind you that you're listening to us on 99.1 FM in Demerara and Essequibo, 99.5 FM in Berbice, online at KaichuNewsOnline.com. For quicker access, we encourage you to download the MyTuner app or the Radio Garden app. You can head across to our Facebook page, Kaichu Radio. We are live there. Or, of course, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, Kaichu Radio. It is the second day of July in the year 2020. And welcome down to COVID-19 and Elections Watch. Joining us this afternoon, of course, is senior journalist Leonard Gildarie. And scheduled to join us shortly is Dr. Yog Mahadeo. In the meantime, Leonard, good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon, dear. My dear, what's the name again? I'm just kidding. There's everybody in our studio here. Joshua, Raj, Kevin. I don't know where Kevin is. A good afternoon to my crew. I'm hearing the feedback. So I want to say good afternoon to you guys. Good afternoon to all our people right across this beautiful country of ours. As Joshua would have said there a short while back, it's July the 2nd. 122 days since that elections of March 2nd, and we keep reminding you about that. There's some bad news and some good news. The good news is that we are alive. The bad news is that we had another death, the 13th death, COVID death last evening. It's a 42-year-old man. We're trying to get some more details. He was taken to the Georgetown Public Hospital and then died. So we are awaiting some details. The COVID cases, as we speak right now, the world is battling not a second phase, not a second sweep, but it is something that is continuing. We never had control over it. That's a story that's emerging. And the United States of America is the one that we should be keeping our eyes on right now. 50,000 more cases in just one day alone, and Florida seems to be a big problem with them. We will be looking at that. As of yesterday, I must tell you that it was announced that we scheduled opening of the airport for yesterday has been pushed back, has been delayed by 1 month. That is because the number of cases has increased. There has been a spike within recent days, especially in the Region 1 area. Very, very serious situation. I think we have dropped the ball big on this one here. Dr. Yog Mahadeo and myself, from all indications, what we would have been seeing has been warning. People are not listening. We have only ourselves to blame for that, and largely on part of the authorities for not enforcing what has been a very lax attitude from the people of Guyana. We have to call it as it is. We don't mince words here. So welcome to this Elections Watch, COVID-19 Watch, right here on Kaicho Radio. And Yog, welcome, my brother. I see you looking all very sharp and nice today. You look ready for the battle. So in the meantime, while we get ready for Yog there, he is there, getting connected. Let me tell you, let's go quickly to the figures. It's 13 persons dead now in Guyana. We have 248 confirmed cases, 116 recovered, and the last person died yesterday, the 13th case. In the U.S., it's 2.74 million cases they have recorded so far, 844,000 persons recovered, 130,000 deaths. Brazil, big numbers here too. They would have gotten into the game, to want of a better term or sentence, very late, and they have 1.46 million cases they have recorded, 827,000 recovered, 60,813 deaths so far. So they're climbing pretty rapidly there, and they're second in terms of the number of cases. Russia would follow, 661,000 confirmed cases, 429,000 recovered, with 9,683 deaths. It's India we should be paying a little attention to. India has 605,000 confirmed cases, 360,000 recovered, with 17,000. They have gone past Russia in terms of that. 17,834. There's a spike over there. Florida, the U.S. has, I think today, if you look at California, parts of California has been ordered to reclose. That is because they have seen a spike, major spike. They think 10,000 cases within the last day or so. I think that's the figures that I'm looking at. I will come back to that. So I want to say welcome to all of our people who've been joining us religiously from since March the 2nd, when we would have taken to the radio to bring you update of the elections 2020, and we have not stopped then. In fact, I think the Energizer Bunny has been renamed Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Dr. Yog Mahadeo, good day to you, sir.
Good day to you. Good day to you and to our viewers and listeners all across the country. It's good to be joining you once again, Mr. Gildarie, albeit the news around the world certainly is not good. And the news in Guyana with the COVID-19, I mean, a lot of people are getting it. And Leonard, the problem we have in Guyana is that you do not know whether you can trust the figures. And that's the bottom line. We don't know whether we can trust the numbers that are being fed to us, because what we do know is that there is no baseline established. There is no strategic testing methodology that would have been shared or would have been established. And so we don't know. I mean, the one feedback that you and I are getting is that these numbers are a reflection now, not of random testing being done in the population, but of persons turning up to the center saying they're not feeling well. And that is worrying.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'd have to continue looking at those figures. I think I might want to disagree with you on one point, and or maybe take it on another level, which is we are blaming ourselves here. People, like for example, I could understand you going out to work, you because there's a need. I can't understand people being gathered on the seawall. I can't understand why you would want to have a 4 a.m. Race on Homestretch Avenue there between horses and motorbikes. Why would you do that? I can't understand you going down to the creek when the creek has been banned. I can't understand you having a pool party. The whole neighbor's blocked out. Everybody's seeing it. The police station is 2 corners away, and nobody's doing anything. And this is in Georgetown. This is on the East Bank. This is coastlands. And we know what is happening. The figures continue. The longer that we have such a cavalier attitude is the longer we're going to be on this. While there are talks about reopening of airports and so on, I don't see that happening. The figures are saying otherwise. If we open the airport, we're going to be in a worse position at the moment. That is what the figures are saying, and that's what authorities are leaning on. That's why the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority would have yesterday said, and we look at the front page of Kaicho News here to Yog. Let me see. I think they're talking about the closure of the airport here. I'm going to have to get a copy of that newspaper. Could you get a copy? Good. But they're talking the airport was supposed to have reopened yesterday. They're saying it's been pushed back till August now. August the 1st, they're going to make a statement on it whether we should reopen. I'm saying that was a very good decision at this point in time. We can't get our act here. We can't control what is happening here. How are we going to control what is coming through the airport? Who's coming through the airport with what? What are the systems that are going to be in place? So even the border areas, deep concerns there over the Brazilians, over the Venezuelans coming into the country. We have no issues with them coming, but there are border issues right now, the closure of the borders. So we have to enforce, Yoke. So big worry there. I'm especially worried. This guy that died yesterday, I'm waiting on some details to come out. 42 years old, younger than yourself and myself, and that person died. He went in with something, almost bypassed the system, ended up in the emergency section, I understand, of the Georgetown Public Hospital. And by the time he was so far gone, they decided to do a swab on him. He would have bypassed all the screening protocols, maybe because of how sick he was. He was not really signaling to them that maybe he has some symptoms of that. He was showing other signs of other things. They did a swab. When he died, the test results apparently came back, showing that he had COVID-19. Now, obviously, there's a big situation that's coming out of this now. Every time that somebody is caught or would have come in contact with somebody who has COVID for the first time, other than treating them, you're in isolation. You're being placed in isolation. We're running short right now, Yog. And the people of Guyana should be very worried about this, of frontline workers, health workers, because not only were we short before, but when you take these persons and put them in isolation, they can't come in contact with anybody. You're further depleting the manpower that you have to fight. So that's another big problem that we have right now. We're not only running out of beds and rooms to keep these people here, it's a very expensive process, but we are also running out of manpower, and that is what the authorities are saying. So this is it's a developing story. This morning I was looking at Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN there. This is by no means over, and this is not Gildarie or Yoke saying that. You go to CNN, you go to the health authorities, what they're saying in the U.S., and they're making projections. Go to the PAHO, WHO, and see what are they projecting in terms of an injection, a vaccine. That thing coming out for another couple of months. So what do we need to do? India, you look at India, which unfortunately had no cases, sun spiked. 17,000 persons have gone past Russia with a 9,600. Brazil is climbing steadily, very steadily in terms of the numbers, and it's all over. They're running out of beds over there too. We understand right now we don't have any beds here. That's how bad it is. The health authorities are forced to rent places to put workers, health workers, and so on. So this thing here, this is something that is really, really bothering me in terms of the fact that we don't have the resources to deal with it. And then when we have a cavalier attitude, it complex matters somewhat or tremendously. So I'm not sure what your intel is telling you, Yog, but I would love to hear from you as to what else we could do to tell our people to be careful.
Leonard, unfortunately, the situation as is you cannot divorce it from what's happening politically, and
Yep.
by and large, you look at the cavalier attitude of people, and when last has any open media meeting happened with the COVID task force? Leonard, people are at the stage where many persons, so for a moment, let's dissect it. The entertainment areas, let's dissect that from work. A lot of people feel that they have to go to work. They have to get money to feed their children, to pay their bills. Remember, the banks didn't waive your loans and your overdraft and all of that. It just had put it back for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you have to still pay your light bill. You got to pay your water bill. You got to pay your internet bill and your telecommunications bill. People got to find money to do all of this. Leonard, there is nothing happening centrally that can advise people. And on the other hand, the ridiculous situation you have is you have a you have Mr. Jordan. I wouldn't say he's the finance minister. He is just squatting in a position. Mr. Jordan would have come out to say, oh, our economy is performing wonderfully. and there's a percentage growth, and he's probably counting into that growth monies that he cannot put his hands on. The money's locked away in the overseas reserves.
Mm-hmm.
But the people of the country punishing. So on one hand, Leonard, you have the people who need to earn for their sustenance, for their daily sustenance. On the other hand, you have the people who are very cavalier, and every time, every day, every other day, you and I call them out. Indeed, the people who are climbing at the sea walls and the people who are doing on. But Leonard, I have to ask. I'm not blaming them, but I have to ask. Where are the police patrols? What are they doing? Crime seems to be on the upsurge. Things seem to be happening across the country, and yet there are people gathering, at the sea walls and at other places. So yeah, we have seen that the police went in and they broke up that riding and racing on the roads a couple of nights ago. But the police probably need to have nightly patrols through all of these areas, evening patrols and so forth, because people need to have their, rather than UPNU AFC abusing state assets and using the hailers to go and spout their political nonsense. The hailers should be used by the police, driving through the areas that people gather and advise them to go home. And if they don't, then you need to arrest them. I mean, we have seen in Berbice, for example, where the equality of treatment is stark, or the inequality. In Berbice, we had a caller call us the other day saying how things are very severe. Now, it was severe in terms of how the police treat them. Do I blame the police? No, I don't, because people need to stay home and you don't need to accumulate and gather in places. Why isn't the same thing happening here? You have said it. Remember Dr. Odekro said a couple months ago when we had him on our show. It makes no sense. Berbice is locked down or Corriverton is locked down, and they're putting all their precautions in place. And people in Georgetown are going to be roaming for free and spreading the virus and then visiting their families in Berbice. That defeats everything. So I agree with you, but I would also want to say two things need to happen and happen urgently. There need to be baseline. There need to be mass testing. We need to get more test kits. You need to be testing across, identify hotspots, do contact tracing and do it, aggressively. And as well, Leonard, I'm repeating, I don't know how to trust the numbers. For a gentleman to walk into the hospital being unwell and dying there speaks a lot what is happening in this country.
And we are waiting to get some more details from that hospital case there, because I'd be very worried that if he had it and then it's only at the point in time when there was very little turning back that he was taken there. At what point in time was he ever tested before? Did he display that symptoms for a long time? Where did he come from? Of course, you come back to contact tracing. Yoga saw some very worrying things, but I must tell you, there's another side to the story that's coming out. You ask about the number of testing that is being conducted. The question that should be asked is, do we have the personnel? Do we have the testing kits available for this? And I think PAHO would have been helping out in that situation. But do we have enough testing kits to be able to do the kind of campaign that what you're suggesting?
Well, Leonard, look, the testing kits, as we know, they need to be stored in a particular manner and in a particular environment. So let us just say 3 weeks ago, PAHO managed to get for Guyana, I think, 4,000 test kits. We don't know how much of that would have been depleted by now. But one would have envisaged that the moment you get 4,000, you remember a month or 2 or 3 ago, there was this proposal to have testing centers across the country. At that stage, they didn't have the test kits. Now they got the test kits, the centers are not set up. Because if you don't, now that PAHO seems to be able to get us the test kits, or test kits seems to be available. I've spoken to somebody in Washington the other day who said, but things are available. Guyana just need to get its act ready and get it right, and things are going to happen and could be available. Now, the truth is, though, that if there is no system set up, Leonard, then, the test kits are probably going to spoil once again. Remember the first set went bad?
Hmm. A couple, yeah, they
So,
had about 1,500 or so thereabouts.
yeah, 1,500 test kits went bad, right? Because of improper storage or whatever it was. Meanwhile, we're 1,500 persons tested with this 4,000. So there needs to be and here is why you need to set a baseline. You need to know where are your high risk areas. You need to lock down more areas. Don't wait for people to go to the public health system to say they're now well, and then you test and say, okay, we're going to do contact testing from you. You need to have baseline testing of various areas. And in that way, they could also look at replenishing, Leonard, because the things can't live forever. The enzymes don't stay forever. And if it's not stored in a particular temperature, it dies.
Hmm.
This is part of the test kit. So they obviously need to get their act right. But again, it comes back to what I said at the beginning. We cannot separate the political fallout and the nonsense that is going on politically with the national health crisis. Unfortunately, that is what it is.
Well, we would have to continue to talk about it and embarrass some people if that's what it takes. Let's head straight into the front page of Kaiser News today, July the 2nd, 2020. And the newspaper here has a very beautiful photo of students writing the grade 6 exam, the national grade 6 examinations. So the headline, CCJ's decision in Guyana elections recount case set for next Wednesday. U.S. government instructs State Department, major story, Yog. I think we would have had more discussion last evening. Sanjeev Dattadin, Tony at Law, would have talked about this a little, and we should take it as very serious. It is one of the final steps before something happens, according to what we told, and it will come as personal sanctions against officials who are involved. U.S. government instructs State Department take action against persons undermining Guyana's democracy. We could tell you a little bit that according to the Ministry of Education, there was a high turnout for the grade 6 exam. We're hearing some issues over in Region 1, students not being able to write. The questions that are now coming out, Yog, maybe we could have a quick discussion on this, is whether it was a good idea to put our students through this at this time when the country is going through so much. So many students, I think it was Karen Cummins, Minister of Foreign Affairs, went to a ministerial forum, or she participated in a ministerial forum with Estonia, one of the countries in the world which has one of the highest penetration of internet. And we told that meeting there that we want help. We want help to improve our digital services. And this is something that is very close to you, Yog. They would have spoken, she would have spoken about how hard hit our education system was in Guyana because of COVID-19, and it's obvious it's a time for action, it's a call for action, and she's calling for help from Guyana, for Estonia, which has a lot of experience, to help us. I think the coalition would have spoken about this sometime back, that they were looking for the Estonian experience, if you will, but it was an admission that something is not right. So we come back to NGSA, the need to write this exam. Many students, thousands of students, did not have access maybe to internet or to have access to WhatsApp group and so on. And so many of them would have missed assignments being sent. School was only open a couple of weeks back, and not everybody was sending the kids to school for them to have brush up lessons in preparation for this exams here. So we're not sure we would. The whole point is we're talking about the mental preparation of students for grade 6, and we're not only talking grade 6 here now. We go to Cape and CSEC within a couple of weeks. Those students are going to be headed towards that. And so these are big, big issues that has to be addressed, has to be taken. This is not Gildarie or Kaicho Radio or Kaicho News attacking anybody. These are realities. Lots of parents out there very, very worried. It's days, weeks have been wasted because of inaction, failure to address issues, failure to tell the people exactly what's the state of play, and taking actions in time to address what is happening. Very, very serious issues, and this is how we need to do it. We need to grapple the bull by the horns, Yog, and we need to address situations and not allow it to fester and get worse over time. Guyana postpones reopening of airports after sharp rise in COVID-19 cases. We did discuss that. Um, Man 42 is Guyana's 13th COVID-19 fatality. The cop who was detained in the 4 a.m. horse and bike race, he was one of several persons arrested after police cracked down on the home stretch event at 4 o'clock in the morning. He claimed that he was a mere spectator. Ridiculous story, but it catches the eye. Top cop and deputy still on the job supervising special operation. Yog, this has to do with there was a parallel drew between the army and the police. The army chief was sent on leave because he is retiring and he has some accumulated leave. A replacement has been named who's going to act in his place. I think it's Godfrey Best, who's the new army chief actor now. But in the meantime, a parallel was drawn because the top cop, Leslie James, as well as one of his deputies, this is Maxine Graham, they're still on the job, although they have a few months remaining and they have accumulated leave. So the top cop and deputy still on the job supervising special operation. Obviously, the special operation is the elections, and so that is how the president would have answered question, why are you allowing two persons to stay on but you send the other man off? I cannot concede without a declaration, President David Granger. Yog, couple headlines, big headlines, all of them high impact and affects thousands of Guyanese, all of the Guyana, in fact, when it comes to not only exams with parents, but when it comes to the political side of things, and of course, COVID-19. Some thoughts from you, my brother?
Well, let's start with the last one first. Granger has said he cannot concede without a declaration. There is nothing in the law, there is nothing in the statutes that stops him from doing the honorable thing. I'll remind viewers and listeners, a week ago, Leonard, a week ago or a couple of days ago, Harman said, concede what? Concede to whom? Now, a couple of days after, Granger has said this. You know, it seems like David Granger is in a sleep or a slumber or something, and he wakes up and he comes out and he makes some statements and then he goes back into his shell. I'll tell you something else. A week ago, what's his name? Moses Nagamotu. Nagamotu was insulting CARICOM leaders and world leaders and that is David Granger's prime minister, you know. Not necessarily, I'm going to say not Guyana's prime minister, he's David Granger's prime minister. He was on air insulting everyone, Leonard. Granger came out. What did Granger do? Granger didn't even say that is wrong. Granger didn't stop his own political party from insulting everyone. Granger said, oh, they're allies, and you know, I will not be mean and I will not insult we need the USA. Guess what? 2 days later, we see army personnel being trained by the USA. So it's a matter of convenience for him. He sings to the choir whenever it appeases him. And this is Granger, I'm talking about the squatter president. Now, he said that he cannot concede without a declaration from GCOM. But he knows exactly what he's doing. He said too in that he slipped up, you know, he slipped up and he revealed a couple things. He said over the 17 weeks they have had constant meetings. So David Granger, in saying that over the 17 weeks they have had constant meetings and continuous meetings, Leonard, he therefore says he's admitting he knows everything what's going on and he knows what the SOPs had revealed, and he lied. He said he never saw the SOPs, he only saw a spreadsheet. So how can you even trust a man who's the president of the country speaking the truth to now come out and say, well, I cannot concede unless there is a declaration? Well, when there is a declaration, you have been given the boot. When there is a declaration, there is no need to concede because you're kicked out. What he could have done is to concede like an honorable person that everybody thought he was, and let this country breathe. Let us move on as a country. But no, he is going to hold on until the last moment of the last day and allow himself to be kicked out. Leonard, what Granger and his small band of merry men and women have done is to take this country into ridicule, to take this country into poverty, to take this country into disease. And meanwhile, he comes out every other day and say, I don't want to hear this word rigging. What is rigging? While he and his people are doing it. So he knows exactly what's going on. He said they're meeting every week for 17 weeks. And that is an admission, Leonard. He is personally responsible for everything that's going on in this country, and he has to be made responsible. Mr. Granger, we are not going to forget, sir. We are not going to forget.
This, we come back last evening, very interesting discussion here with Attorney at Law Sanjeev Dattadin, the issue of sanctions and the exact words used by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to his people when he was addressing the nation with regards to his stance on Guyana. Yog, it was very, very clear based on the opinion of the good counsel that this is something that you shouldn't brush it aside as just mere words coming from the chief diplomat of the U.S., the guy who oversees foreign policy on behalf of the U.S. He's the most powerful diplomat in the world. And he is saying that I've been instructed by the State Department, of which he's in charge of, to look for who's accountable for the Guyana elections and, of course, take actions against them. Very, very, very
Correct.
strong words. But in a nutshell, do we have an impression as if the wheels have started turning? That is what Sanjeev Dattadin said.
Well, look, let us just for a minute, let us reassess what Mike Pompeo has said. He has said, I have instructed my department to ensure that those who undermine Guyana's democracy are held accountable. Now, that is something that he has done already. He has already instructed his department. However, Leonard, let me just, APNO AFC is behaving like as if, oh, well, nobody can threaten us, nobody can do anything, nobody can blah, 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 blah. But however, you are seeing, you connect, let anyone connect the dots. Every time the U.S. makes a statement, you would find the day after or there around at that time, Granger comes out and he says, oh, all is good. I am waiting on GCOM. Right? Connect the dots and you will see. So the effect of it, is very, very real. The other thing to your point, Leonard, Guyanese need to appreciate that sanctions take many forms. We can tell ourselves that the sanction is not going to affect us. So last night, as you rightly said in the discussion with Sanjeev Dattadin, we discussed that there are many layers of sanctions. There are sanctions against the country. Guyanese people who are adults, 18, 19, 20 years old, you would know that for many years, there has been sanctions against Cuba, for example. Now, as a human being, you can judge whether whatever Cuba has been doing for the last 50, 60 years has been right or wrong. But what we know is that the sanctions has had a disastrous impact on the country and its people, right? So those are sanctions at the economic and national level that the U.S. would have imposed. At the same time, there are personal sanctions that were imposed. Now, one of my beloved sisters wrote this morning, and in a message, we had a message exchange, and she was saying, but, how can the world judge us? And why should the world tell us we are right or wrong? What right they have? And here is what right they have, Leonard. We need the world. We borrow from the World Bank. We borrow from the IMF. We depend on the world to send us now. We want to borrow or we want to get access to testing kits for COVID-19. We need the world to sell our rice and our sugar and our oil and everything else. So you need the world. Guyana cannot be standalone, an island on its own. No man is an island. You know, no country can survive without another country. And look at what's happening in Venezuela, Leonard. Let me just take a minute to share this with everybody. The UK High Court has refused to release the gold, Venezuelan gold, held in the Bank of England. The UK High Court has refused to release that gold to Maduro's government. Now, someone may ask, well, what right does UK have, and why should UK judge Venezuela? But Leonard, there are many sides to it. If you look at what's happening at the UK and you look at what's happening in Venezuela, for example, one would see that there are many things. Now, if you look at just zoom into Venezuela itself, you would see that Venezuela's neighbors have reacted against Maduro. I think it's only Cuba and one other country, whether it is Ecuador or somewhere, that would have endorsed Maduro. Everybody else in this hemisphere, everybody else in this part of the world has come out against him. So in England, the UK doing what it did, in the US doing what it did, it has sided with the majority. So while it's a US policy, it has also sided with the majority. But here is what's going to happen. Venezuela is being squeezed, right, Leonard?
Yes.
Like Guyana will be squeezed. Guyanese have gone to every country in the world getting away from the Burnham regime of the 1980s. People flee from this country. And what did they do? They went to every other country in the world to settle. Right? Now, all of those people will be under potential threat. All of the people living, all the Guyanese that are currently living illegally, for example, in Caribbean countries, if Guyana gets knocked off CARICOM and we lose our CSME and we lose our right to travel and all of that, then what happens? Who is there with us? And last thing I'll say, Venezuela. Leonard, if Venezuela does not settle down, a lot of people say, well, that's their problem. That's their problem. It is not. The poor people of Venezuela that are struggling, what do you think they will do? They're going to come over to Guyana. They will go to Brazil. They're going to go to all the countries in Latin America. They're going to try to get away from the oppression. And imagine what impact that will have on the economies of other countries. You got to look at it from two sides. One is the human rights side, that you would want to help people. Refugees, they ask for help and countries generally help them. But the other side is the impact on the national economies. And the third side is the impact on the health status of countries in these times of COVID. So, Leonard, people can pass it lightly, this thing about sanctions, but it is very, very, very serious.
It is, Yog, and something that is not going to go away. We have to continue to pay attention because it's not the politicians alone. All Guyana would be affected. And talk about being affected, Yog, you know, over the past 4 months, today makes, I think if you're looking at it from March the 2nd to where we are right now, today would make 4 months since the March the 2nd elections. And
Leonard, one second, my brother. Before we go to the election, let me just correct I said I presumed it was Cuba and one other country. It is actually Cuba and Bolivia are the only countries to explicitly voice support for Venezuela. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Yog. We have been joined since March the 2nd by some people who've been very faithful, loyal. In fact, they've been with us foot to foot almost. They've been joining us on Facebook. They've been joining us on radio right across this beautiful country and in other countries as far as Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Norway. People are actually waiting up in the nights to hear from room 592. So today, like
last night, we had messages from Geoff, I think they pronounce it as, in South America. I mean, it was in the mid-morning there when we were in room 592, Leonard.
Well, if he's listening to us, Geoff, I want to say good day to you. But today we want Dr. Yog Mahadeo, myself, family, and of course the folks down at Kaicho Radio, Kaicho News. We want to make two families happy, two families in need. So we have our number 622 622 Just tell us your information, what is happening with you, and let us help two families badly in need. And so just text us the information. You could either text us on WhatsApp or you could text us normally, 622 and let us take it from there. So, Yog, in the meantime, I want to bring you down another, before we go to the line, there's something that we should be paying attention to. The closure of the borders, the closure to what is happening has badly affected our ability or capacity to do business, because many offices have been closed, many government stations, they have reduced the hours of work and so on. So it's affected. Even the courts have taken drastic measures, which I think long term in its nature, maybe one of these days we could talk about that, how the courts are operated and what has happened. The jails have been affected. They've been releasing, I think, 200 and something persons since the COVID-19, since March. That is because you don't want to crowd the prison and increase the possibility. They are looking at various measures, early release, among other things. But one of the situation we'd have to continuously pay attention to. COVID-19 is here with us. It will remain. It will continue. How does Guyana evolve, adapt to what would be a changing business environment? There's going to be some opportunities that are going to come up. I think I was looking at news this morning. I think it's Pizza Hut and Wendy's, two of America's biggest fast food franchises. They filed for bankruptcy. This is Pizza Hut. I think we have Pizza Hut right here. Wendy's is a chicken fast food franchise. Both of them have filed for, I think, Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And so that is something, it's an indication right across America. You see cases like that happening. On the other hand, the flip side of that, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, his his value has gone up considerably by billions of dollars. Why? Because instead of people going and shopping out a store, the stores are closed, you order online. So Amazon has been making a lot of money because that's about business that they're involved in. So that's an opportunity that Amazon would have probably capitalized on, getting things faster to people, delivery services, and so we would have seen some parallels being drawn here, that there's been an increase if some supermarkets are actually delivering food or the grocery to your home if you pick up the phone, order it, and tell them what you want. I think this place down on Water Street, that supermarket there, I can't remember the top of my head, but a couple of the supermarket, including Massey's supermarket, is doing it. So we are seeing, my point is, we are seeing a different way that we're doing business in Guyana now, or should be doing. And that is something that I really want us to have a conversation on. What are some of the opportunities that are going to arise during this time, and getting ourselves prepared for the long haul, for business not as usual with COVID-19 cases, Yog.
There is, the world has rapidly changed over the last 3 months, Leonard. And it was heartening, and it continues to be heartening to see that producers and retailers in Guyana have changed their business operations, and they are interacting directly with their customers and delivering to customers. So that is something that we have to give them the kudos for. A lot of the businesses, a lot of the supermarkets around Georgetown, well, I mean, the main supermarkets, I can't speak for a lot, a couple that I know, they do they do delivery, and that speaks to a changing business mentality. In the US, as you rightly pointed, some big chains have closed and continue to close. There are some shakeup going on in the economy, the world economy, Leonard. The moment you hear governments bailing out, and sending. And I'm not saying it's wrong. They're helping people, but the moment the government starts to pay people and to take on the aspect of giving money out, and to bail out companies and corporations, there will be a rapid shorter term decline of overall wealth in that space. Because Leonard put it this way: while COVID-19 is going on, right, the productive sectors have been severely impacted in all the countries of the world. There are countries that have been producing only for export. Now, let us talk about Malaysia and some of India and Pakistan and some of those countries that employ huge numbers of their population in garment manufacturing, in the garment industry. Now, with COVID-19, those people that are working in those manufacturing areas will be impacted. All of them can, there'll be changes happening. In India, for example, there has been a close down of many of these operations. So what's been happening? On the one end, the people are struggling. They're not going to get money to eat. And remember, they used to work for pennies. They used to work for very, very small amounts for us to be able to buy a shirt for $5 and $10 and $30. But the bottom line person, the front line that makes the first stitch, gets little or nothing. But they don't have anything. But Leonard, by them not having anything, no production is happening, which means that no buying will be happening. And so the cycle will be affected for everyone. The only people that will probably continue to do good, and this is where Guyana has not recognized its potential, is countries with vast agricultural abilities, vast agriculture and vast productive abilities. And there is where Guyana ought to have really benefited from something like this. But unfortunately, we are in the zone where no one is benefiting from anything. So Leonard, overall, there will be an economic impact, and it will have some dire consequences. You're going to see shakeup happening all over the place.
Yes. And you're right. Somebody has sent us a text here too. Let me see. It is the person's making a thing. It's not Wendy's. They said that the parent company itself did not file for bankruptcy. This is Wendy's and Pizza Hut. It is one of the largest franchises, not the parent company. It would have been something that is affiliated with them. I think they were talking about with franchises. So we got to
Right.
I'm going to get the details and pull it up, though. But I saw it.
But
this morning.
remember when you're talking about it doesn't mean a company closed down.
No.
Targets has announced that they're gonna contract the amount of stores. JC Penney, all of these places
Yeah,
have
it's beat.
you have seen them contracting the amount. I think Subway, some of these companies have already. So you're seeing the financial headlines. They're talking about contracting, that is reducing the amount of outlets they have. But one of the things that we need to know is that many of these places operate franchises, right? So if the downstream franchises would start to close down, then the upstream is going to suffer ultimately. And Amazon, for example, Amazon is a distribution, unique distribution system. And does Amazon depend also on the bottom line, on the groundswell? So ultimately, everybody is going to think. Now, Leonard, the other part that will affect us all is prices. Prices will invariably go up. And already you're not working. I'll tell you this. People who are sending their children to private schools in Guyana, you would find that in the next term, you would have to fork out $70,000 to $80,000 for your child to go to school. And that is just school fees, leaving out books and all of that, and uniform and everything else. Prices are going to go up, and it's going to affect everybody, Leonard. It is going to affect everybody. And because we are not taking a mature grasp of COVID, it means it's going to prolong, and we are prolonging the agony.
But I must say 2 points to you, Yog. I can't understand for the life of me. Why is it that Yog Mahadeo and Gildarie has to be discussing these issues? Where are the authorities on matters like this? For example, This morning I was told, I was having a conversation with somebody who's involved in business. You know what the rate of the US on the road is right now? The
No, I
US
don't.
the US dollar yoke has touched $250 a one.
Wow.
And there is not any on the road you can't find. They would gladly offer if you have US dollars in your hands cash and you go on the road right now, you're likely to get up to 250. You might be able, if you want to send money abroad or so, the bank might have it. But the cash on the road is nothing there because nothing's coming into the country really. You're not doing any
Correct.
kind of trading. So it's a big issue. And of course, with the oil, don't forget, sugar's taken a beating. Rice is a good one. We're doing some rice with Venezuela. That's something that we probably need to talk about a little. We're doing rice. A couple of new markets would have been open. Gold has been above $1,700 per ounce. That has been doing well. Have we been doing the volumes which would ensure that the money keep flowing in? But with sugar out of the picture, we're doing something with the oil right now, with the oil money that is overseas, and with the reduction of oil activities here, we seeing we're not going to see the kind of volumes in terms of money that's there. The GT&T and Digicel still taking all the money out of the country, so we have a sapping up of the little remaining. The Trinidad companies are here, the Masses and a couple of the others. They're taking out money to help with Trinidad. That's a known fact. So we could talk about it from now till tomorrow morning. The authorities are not addressing some of these key issues. $250, one US, and that's how bad the situation is. It's rising. Nobody's paying attention to it, but the business people are paying attention because you just
Well,
spoke about the increase in prices for goods. It is going to have an impact on that.
well, Leonard, put it this way. Look, let us just say Massey Supermarket. From one perspective, one would say that they're the capital flight. I mean, they would need the US dollars to export. But on the other hand, one has to look at it from the following perspective. For them to continue importing goods to run their services in country, they have to get US dollars. So it's a kind of a vicious cycle, because they have to get foreign reserves. They have to earn enough, and by earning now, they will have to convert their local currencies into US dollars, because when they're buying their goods to bring to Guyana, they got to pay in US currency. So that exacerbates the problem. The other thing we have is that, the world over, their confidence in Guyana as an economy will very, very soon start to be shattered. I mean, if it hasn't already. So we know we have that. But Leonard, look, you and I have agonized over this, and I see Anand Gangadin has said it the right way. You and I have said this 2 months ago when we were talking about Gaisuku and the closure of Gaisuku, that the government closed on Gaisuku by and large. It decimated that industry, and it didn't realize that industry, all the money that they say they used to subsidize Gaisuku with, they didn't realize that the money was going to keep up the drainage and irrigation system, keep up communities, keep up potable water supply, keep up a lot of things across the coastlands of Guyana. So now they got to face that expense without any production now. In other words, you're not getting any sugar, so you can't earn any foreign exchange to bring into this country. Leonard, while Gaisuku used to operate at a loss, they used to bring foreign exchange in, not take it out. So there was a balancing act that one has to say they have not valued at all. The other aspect to it, of course, one has to look at, what Mr. Gangadin said. That is, all of the Gaisuku lands that they have abandoned, they're stealing it out. They're selling it out to friends and families instead of using what was already prepared lands and going to soy production, for example. With the present problems between the US and China, the trade war between the US and China, there is a massive potential and opportunity there for countries that can get their agricultural strategic planning right to exploit and to gain some huge benefits. But in Guyana, all they're doing is try to steal power every passing day, change the narrative, change the goalpost so that they can remain in power for one more day.
You're quite right, Yog. I think food security would be a big issue in the coming
Yes.
months, in the coming years. Let me tell you something. If our Guyanese people, our compadres, if you have an opportunity, take a walk across the border by Latam there. Drive from in the Roraima state along the highway there. You could cross from Latam via the Takatu Bridge into Brazil, and then you inbound from there. And you could travel from there to Boa Vista, which is an outlying town that connects to Guyana. So if you look along there, Yog, it is miles and miles and miles of fields of that same thing, corn, and so many other products that they have there. It's unbelievable. A little river that separates Guyana and Brazil, and just across a stone throw away, you could say it's a vast different thing. It's a different mentality. So there's some opportunities that comes here. I think Brazilians were interested in some lands here because they said it is closer to the ports that we have here. If you were in those outlying areas in Brazil, you'd have to look at taking the stuff far down, maybe miles, days away from where the nearest port is. So they were looking at the Guyana situation. Maybe the Linden Latam Road would have allowed containers to move very quickly from the Roraima state into Guyana and then to our ports here. So that is something that we need to start looking at very, very, very seriously. COVID-19 has opened that possibility. But Joe,
Hmm.
before we do that, my guys in the studio here, management has told me that we should encourage our people to get onto our YouTube too. You could get us on Facebook here, Kaicho Radio on Facebook, but also we have a YouTube. You just go to YouTube, enter Kaicho Radio, and we there streaming live on video as well, video that we have it there. So you could also be there, just hit the subscribe button, and it tells you whenever we online and we on air with particular programs, especially COVID-19 elections watch. And you and I would have to start talking sometime, Yog, about what happens when this is all over. What's going to happen with you? Are you going to Brazil too?
Well, no, unfortunately, I hate to put it like this, but unfortunately, I'm going to stay here to ensure that the people that my vote matters. I'm going to stay here to ensure that my vote must be counted, and Mr. Lowenfield must not find that he has a right to burn my ballot. He does not have that right, and I'll fight for that, Leonard.
Yes, we will continue fighting. So we'd have to start talking. So it will probably no longer be elections watch. We start looking at what is happening in our community. We should put under the microscope the functioning of the neighborhood democratic councils, the RDCs, because these bodies have billions of dollars that is shared among them from central government. And when we look at the kind of work that they're doing, I don't believe COVID-19 has really exposed what our NDCs, RDCs, how badly they're operating, how inaction has really failed us, has robbed us of a better life if they had taken some proactive stance in managing these communities that they're in charge of. Very key responsibility. A township, they have a lot of powers under the local government laws now, and they could take it to the next level very quickly, but they haven't done so because of political affiliations, a whole bunch of reasons that we could look at. But we are going to start looking at those areas maybe as we continue elections COVID watch after this is all over. We expect it to be over, and so let us see how it goes from there. So, Yog, before we go to the phone lines, is there anything that I would have missed that the people should know?
Well, not really in terms of Miss Leonard. There are some other things happening that we need to be aware of in terms of education. I mean, the children continue to write exams, and our children, while they continue to write exams, they are under severe stress. And I would like to encourage everybody, as far as is practical, be positive with the children, give the children all the support you can. These are testing, trying times. And, to have our children have to wear masks and write exams and so forth. And I got information that, children who wear masks, Leonard, and they go, they're asked to change their mask, and we got to check out. I'm not going to say more on it until we checked it out thoroughly. But kudos to the children who are facing all the toughness in Guyana, especially with COVID-19, but they're still keeping their exams as their main aim.
Hmm. Well, absolutely. So I think we should be getting some information coming out with regards to how the students would have been faring. But we hoping to the thousands of parents who would be logged into us, who've been tuning into us. We want to wish you all the best with the children, with our students, our future. That we hope that they are doing well under this pressure. If nothing, COVID-19 and elections 2020 has dealt us, Yog, it has been our capacity to deal with pressure, and pressure it has been. If you see the number of persons who would be having it very hard, it's heartbreaking. You and I have been talking about this for a little while. So we want to remind you, we want to look at two families. So Dr. Yog Mahadeo, myself, Kaicho Radio, Kaicho News. We want to have you text us, tell us a little of your situation, two families, and let us take it from there. We're gonna call you. So Yog, we head straight to the phone lines, 226-7453, 226-7453. You could also send us your messages to 6222222. Do not call us on that. Do not call us on 6222222. We're not going to answer. That's only for text. So 6222222. Send us a text there, WhatsApp or normal. And you could call us right now, 226-7453. Dr. Yog Mahadeo, myself, we want to hear about what is happening with you with regards to the elections and, of course, the COVID-19. And if you could tell us a little about, if you have a kid in school, how the exams would have affected your kids or not. So I think we go straight to the air. Good afternoon. You're on the air. Yes, good afternoon. I think we lost that. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Yes, I think we lost that call there. So 226-7453. You could call us on that and let us hear from you, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and myself, Leonard Gildarie, standing by to hear from you on Kaicho Radio here. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Could you turn down your radio, please?
All right, yeah, just, yeah, man, good work.
Yes, sir.
I will take a little drink.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell me your call because I don't very good.
Where you calling from, sir?
Blackbush.
Blackbush Polder. What part in Blackbush here?
Maybe Curie.
Maybe Curie, yes. So, good day to all Blackbush people. What's bothering you today?
Everyone this election business, they all the man to get on with staff quick.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's one of the major the concerns of all Guyanese at this moment. They want to get it over with and done.
Yeah. Because everybody know that the BB win and why these people are holding back the results of.
Mm-hmm. All right. So thank you very much. Any other points you want to make at this time?
Oh, there is all. Yeah.
Thank you very much for calling. Blackbush Polder, Maybe Curie. To all the best to those people in Yakasari as well. Lots of friends there. Good day to you, Jacob, and of course, grandmother, and she knows who she is. To Mikey as well. A good day to all you folks. It's been a hard working set of people live there. A lot of farmers. They're dealing with cattle. They're dealing with cash crop, rice. Good day to you, and of course to the Nan Passad. If you guys are listening to us, I think they have a mill there as well. So good day to Blackbush Pole and all those folks on the quarantine. Molson Creek, Crabwood Creek. We go down to Skeldon, New Amsterdam, Port Morant. If I miss you guys, and of course to Peter Lewis, been a very regular listener, good contractor that we in quarantine. A good day to you, sir. Yog, there's another caller on line. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Hello?
Yes, sir. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have an idea. There's a lot of Guyanese people who are hoarding money, especially from the government. What I suggest the new government do is print new $5,000 bills, and new $1,000 bills, and new $5,000 bills and 1,000, and call in all the old ones so you know who are holding all the cashes. That would be very good idea.
Just something like in India. Yog, you want to think? I think Yog, are you hoarding anything? I gotta ask you,
No,
my
but
brother.
I wish I could, but I tell you what, I support that very much. You know, I call us Suriname did it a little while back. India did it when
Yes,
Modi
India.
got into
Yeah,
government.
yes.
You know, it's one of the things governments do when they realize there is huge corruption going on. They just change the money, and you can keep whatever you have there. So that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, the bank should only allow $100,000 per person, and if it's more than $100,000, then they should bring in the internal revenue for them to explain how they got that kind of money.
Yes.
You know, a lot of politicians got a lot of money stick under the bed or the mattress or the pillows or something.
Yeah, so that's very important. So all those guys who are hiding, all the money, they're gonna be left holding the bag because they can't buy US. Because who's gonna take their money from them, and how are you gonna explain it to the bank? So it's a very smart way to clear up the whole corrupt system.
Interesting. And I think India had some major problems with that. I think they had to abandon it after a little while, but it is a good thing.
Yeah.
We must think of
India did it because a lot of poor people just had cash and they were having a hard time. But here in Guyana, the poor people don't have too much cash. It's the rich ones that have the cash. So those are the ones who go after all the corrupt ministers and all the corrupt, all the businessmen who are in cahoots with the minister or was with the previous, everybody. You take everybody out of the state and you have a clean show. And this way, people wouldn't be holding money because they will know in another couple of years they're going to change it. They're going to change the currency again. So they'll be afraid to really hold on to the currency.
Yes, it is. It is. I think Trinidad, a couple of months back, I was over there and they were changing, I think it was $100 bills. And there was deep fears. I think one church person went in with a couple cartoon box. One
Yes.
church person went in with a couple cartoon box with $100 bills and said, "Where did you get it from?"
Correct.
And
Well, the U.S. do that constantly. They're $20, $50, $100 bills. They change the security features in them all the time. But a lot of people who are, especially the drug dealers, they don't want to hold on to the cash because they know they'll have to explain how they got it. So they try to wash the money through fake businesses and gold and all that kind of stuff.
yes. All right, caller. Thank you very much. Any other points?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the caller has a very good point. There's something, I think Trinidad, they had done that a couple of months back. That was a big story because there was a lot of pushback when they had announced it and they gave very little time. So by the time people catch themselves, there was some question about, although they did say it wasn't for money laundering, they said it was to increase the security of I think it was the $100 bill that they had. And so there was some pushback, but it did catch some people in the tax net, which I think was a wider aim of the entire initiative by the Trinidad Authority there, although they didn't say that. And India, they had done that a couple of years back. Modi had introduced that as a prime minister coming in. He had intended to fight corruption, and that was something. But a lot of people were caught with house loads of money, literally. But
Right.
it is something that we have to look at.
There is another aspect to it, Leonard. We have to realize that the politicians in Guyana, you look at the president, you look at his ministers, they have not complied with integrity commission's mandatory requirements. So if the politicians are not complying with even the mandatory requirement of the integrity commission, why would you expect, or why should you expect, or why would you want to punish the countrymen? for you see the thing is, Guyanese, we have a problem with it. Politicians are not following the laws. They're flouting all the laws. They're flouting all the road laws and financial regulation laws and everything else. They're look, as we said a couple days ago, and it's something we'll continue to watch. What do they do with their duty-free concessions? They sell it. Politicians sell their duty-free concessions. What happened to the poor man who worked his whole life to own a vehicle? He got to go, and he got to go through all the challenges of GRA and everything. And he got to pay a property tax on his car as well. Meanwhile, those politicians, they don't pay taxes. They're exempt from most of the taxes, and they get duty-free concession on top, and then they sell their duty-free concessions. So, Leonard, there is a problem, and I would certainly hope that the new government will take a real bottom-up approach and ensure that there is some degree of equality, some degree of equal treatment for all. You can't expect a handful of people to be getting the good life, and you want to steal and rob and cheat every day, and the rest of the country must continue to say, yes, Lord, yes, Master, and they must get nothing. It has to be a bottom-up approach. It has to be where we can look at the betterment for the people of the country.
And that is what we miss in what comes first, the love for this country, doing the correct thing, because we have to get it right. We have to be responsible. We have to be strong about it. The people who are going to be coming to us, they will be coming to us with bags of money, and they're going to be offering us, and it will be up to us to see what is the bigger thing, whether it's this country here for the long haul, or you stay in there a couple of years and then we kick you out because you're corrupt. That's something that the politicians don't realize. Yog, there's somebody who's texting us here. Good afternoon, congrats on the good job. It is my hope that after the PPP gets into government, you guys continue to ensure through a program that the government runs our country efficiently and effectively. Please call them out when the air so our country would be a better place to live in. Good life for all citizens. This is coming from Vijay. And I think you were saying the right thing. It doesn't matter whether it's the PPP or the other side. Whoever goes in there ain't going to have any kind of, how you say it, honeymoon, Yog. There's not going to be a honeymoon period. There's going to be the first day that you get in there, you would have to hit the ground running. Much work to be done. It has to be, you'd have to fix, you'd have to deal with COVID-19. You have to look at the economy. We have to fix that oil contract. Unbelievable, unacceptable that we have such a large deposit of oil there, yet to remain poor. We begging the IDB, we begging the World Bank, we begging the rest of the donor countries. Even PAHO, Yog, we begging people to help us with a couple of masks when we have 15 billion barrel of oil sitting in our ocean here, and we have so much gold and bauxite. We begging people. What is wrong with us, man?
Correct.
You want to take a negotiated job for the government, Yog? Would you consider?
Well, look, we all have to do whatever we can do to help this country. Ultimately, Leonard, for the past 50 odd years since independence, it's the politicians that have come first. It's the prolonging of their power that has become number one, and not the people of the country, the sugar workers, the rice farmers, the bauxite workers, the public servants. We have all become just a political football that the politicians would kick this way or the other way. We got to ensure that as a people, we realize the power is in our hands, Leonard. Look, this government refuses to accept that they were voted out of power because of bad job. They spent 5 years to enrich themselves, not the people of this country. And then they refuse to accept they did bad. But at the end of the day, they could sing and dance how much they want. They have lost power, and they will have to get out. Whether he concedes, or he waits for the Iron Lady to kick him out, or he decides he's going to stay in power, there will be another election and we will let him out again. And if the PPP comes in and they perform poorly, Leonard, as a people, we'll kick them out again. We put the people put the PPP out of power in 2015, and it's the people that put the APNU AFC out of power in 2020. And the people will have their voice and continue to have their voice. And this is why I've joined you on this radio to tell people to remember it is your right to protest the government if your roads are not being fixed. It is your right to expect and to get and to demand the good drinking water, potable water. It is your right to expect that your products can be marketed and marketed properly. It is our right to expect these things, Leonard. It is, and it hurts everyone when you see all of them living their good life and the rest of the people gets what? Look, all of the people, the handful of them, not all the handful of people that joining this silly APNU AFC bandwagon presently. If they are joining this bandwagon, it means they are being part of the deals that is going on. They are getting something. All of them that join the bandwagon, they're either getting some land or some asset or some deal, or they're carrying home property because they are doing it for personal gain. Because the rest of the country that voted on March 2nd, we are getting nothing. We can't get a job. We can't get a little help. We're getting people donating masks and donating food stuff for our people. Meanwhile, guess what happened? The couple dollars we're collecting as taxes, that GRA continue to squeeze us. Right? Those dollars, what are you doing with it? Department of Political Information, they're publishing trash every day. The Guyana Rag, that people know as the Guyana Chronicle, what is it doing? It's only publishing what the APNU AFC PNC wants to publish. Mr. Moses Nagamotu, he once said on a political platform that if he's offered more salary, he will refuse it. He's going to help people. What he doing today? He's stealing the ballots to stay in power to earn more money. All of the money they have earned from March 2nd to today is illegal money. They're stealing from the mouths of our children and from the mouths of the people who have no food to eat. And that is what people are very angry about. Leonard, I have a question. How does the PNC hope to win the next election? Maybe this is why they're doing all that they're doing, to ensure they stay in power, because they know they're now winning the next election.
I'm going to ask you this, or come to you by asking you this. It would be, or telling you this, in fact, and something that we need to think about. It would be even more frightening not having an opposition that is strong.
Exactly.
I'm worried about that.
Exactly. That is indeed worrying. If you don't have a respectable opposition, who is going to hold the PPP government to good governance? It is not supposed to be our job here, Leonard. The opposition supposed to be holding the government to ensure that it maintains good governance. Look, there is the what you call it, Finance Committee of Parliament that is supposed to ensure it checks every dollar spent.
The Public Accounts Committee.
And Public Accounts Committee that ensure it checks every dollar spent and get them to account for it. Leonard, who is going to account and who is going to answer for all the nonsense that we are facing today with the runaway Guyana Rag and the runaway Department of Political Information? Who is going to pay for the children who cannot write exams presently by an education minister that doesn't even know the difference between Pagwa and Deepavali, for example? I mean, it's amazing, and I've never heard even an apology for that. You didn't go to school, even the high school students know the difference between our holidays. But it shows the lack of human care of the politicians for the people of this country. And Leonard, what makes me proud is that as a people, we are awakening to the fact that we can kick them out and kick them out again.
Thank you very much, dear. Living in Jamaica, it is difficult being a Guyanese here right now. Anyone who knows you Guyanese asking, what is wrong with elections there? Can't give them a proper answer. I'm ashamed. Whenever Jamaica has elections, preliminary results are known before midnight of the elections day. Coming from somebody living in Jamaica there, or Guyanese. So let me see, there's another one. Um, Please come out and represent. Let me see. Where's the Minister of Health? Not hearing from them for a long time. And I think they're asking us to go to Belladam, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, to find out what is happening to them there. I think there's across the river. So we'd have to probably take a walk or send our reporters there. Yog, I know that majority of Guyanese inside and outside of Guyana wants what is best for Guyanans, people living in Guyana. However, please allow us to say that removing the PPP from government was a bad mistake for those who would have voted them out. Today we see the replacement is worthless. I think Yog could probably speak for himself. Nobody removed the PPP from government. The people voted them out. I think there's a distinction, right, Yog?
Indeed. And you know what, to that brother or sister that sent that message, I must say to you that you wouldn't have known that this would have happened. That's one. And two, maybe the PPP needed to be in opposition to correct its ways. Leonard, the world knows the PPP has done some things that it is not proud of and will never be proud of. And we got to continue to, if you cannot accept and own up to your mistakes, then you cannot correct it. I am elated that an Anil Nandlal, we have had him on Route 592. President-elect Irfan Ali, we have had him in 592. Bharat Jagdeo has been on the air. He has been on this same Elections Watch program. It's good to find that these big men and women of the PPP are saying we made some mistakes and we're going to ensure that those do not recur. It takes a big man and a big woman to accept and apologize and move on. And you know what, Leonard, when I hear Joe Harmon says, no apologies, I have no apologies to make for this, it speaks to the arrogance that politicians have. And finally, I'll say, there were some ministers in the PPP government that were treating people like trash. You could not talk to them. They treated you like trash. They were lords and masters. And you know what? They probably needed to be in opposition. They needed to come off their high horse. And you know, the public, this country has given them an opportunity again. And if they don't grab that opportunity with both hands, and they don't do better for the country and not for themselves, I will come out against them again. Because it has to be country first, not friends and families first.
Well, they need to listen to the song Trade Winds, Not a Blade of Grass. And then, of course, Poonam Singh, Guyana. If they would have listened, Guyana. Is that it correct, Kevin? Jazzy Jack. I'm learning a couple of things here. Beautiful songs with tug at your heart, dear Yog. So here it is. Good afternoon, Leonard. I'd like to inform your listeners and viewers that a Gordon Ramsay Uncharted Guyana episode will be airing this Sunday at 10 p.m. on the National Geographic Channel. So I think this is the big cook. He was been in Guyana, world-renowned television cook who would have been in Guyana would all over. I think people got very upset with him after he decided to make pepper pot with chicken. I don't know who do that. I think they were very upset. But he's done something that's going to put Guyana on the map with regards to cooking. So let's...
Leonard, I can't comment. I'm a vegetarian. I can't comment. But I'll tell you this. I think Mr. Ramsey would have to come and learn how to cook from the PNC. They have cooked up an entire election. They have cooked up this entire country, and they're the only ones eating off it, I must say.
Yes. Good afternoon. Just for us to know that the minister getting pay up to now. I think that's what the person wanted to say. Yes, according to us, according to the administration, the ministers are continuing their jobs. They are, I think, Karen Cummins, Foreign Affairs Minister, she has been representing Guyana. There has been others who have been coming out talking. They have been doing the thing. Minister Cameron Ramsden, I think he's still on the job. There are many others who are still doing their thing, being paid. The state is continuing to pay them. So we go to the phone lines. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes. All of you taking something I heard you guys saying. If countries are so interested in how countries are governed and how they spend the government spend the people money, they should look at they should speak out when they come to like oil contract. You would never hear them say that because oil is big politics. So you would never hear them say that. So these people, they're one-sided in everything. They should be guiding government. Come out. All countries should come out when a country make a terrible deal with Exxon and say something like that. Come out and say, well, no, that's wrong. You can't do that to the people. You're robbing the people. No, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't touch that subject. But they would touch people election. They would touch people. It's crazy. It's big politics. Another thing. I heard you guys, Yog and Leonard was saying, the money situation what's it you were saying?
The exchange rate?
Yeah, like take away the money, like call in the money, like call in.
Oh yes.
Yeah, good. That's nonsense. You see that black people don't got a lot of money. You take that from me. Black folks like spend money. They've never heard money. Indian people will suffer. So if you go in there, your people can suffer. Our people can suffer. They can suffer bad. Because only Indian people could earn money because they got a lot of money.
No, don't say that, man. How you know that, man? What's wrong with you?
People don't got no money, man.
Man.
I live in America. Let me tell you. There's no way black people got that kind of money. You know what makes me know black people don't have money? In the good days when money was running, dirty money, good money, bad, whatever. After the 2015, you know what happened? Nobody had no money. I had a friend of mine who used to do so well. I asked him for $2,000 to put gas in his car. Then you know black people really don't got money. And I know the guy in PPP time, he was doing real good. When I said good, because a lot of money was running around. You feel me? So that thing is never going to happen. Never going to happen. You try to call in money is never going to happen.
All right, that was something proposed by one of the callers. Thank you very much, caller, and a different perspective. Thank you very much, Yog.
All right, good.
God bless. Good afternoon, Leonard and Yog. I look at the program as I get the time. Thank you guys for doing a great job and continue to inform us. My concern today is about the rice farmers in the Maikoni area who's planting rice on government leased lands since the inception and don't have a lease. My hope is that the next government will look into this as ASAP, as soon as possible, so we could go to the bank and get loans to upgrade our machinery. Thanks and have a wonderful and blessed day. Yes, Yog, this is something that has been, to use your words, a recurring decimal. It seems every election the people have been asking to have some kind of long-term arrangement with regards to lands that have been in the possession for years, and they've been planting it, they've been reaping from it, and yet they don't have any way of maybe going to the bank and borrowing against it because they don't have the lease documents. So it is something that we'd have to look into, maybe agitate a little more for with regards to farmers. A lot of farmers just working from crop to crop. They're living from day to day in some cases. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to get a real feel as to how bad the situation is, but I rather presume it does continues right now on the COVID-19 with regards to the various areas. Cash crop. Do we have any idea how cash crop is doing, Yo? Is it that there's a lot of, because of the parts and power would have reduced, whether they've been taking some blows, more blows?
Well, cash crop, but there's no cash to buy the crops from other people. I mean,
yes,
people are buying bare essentials. But one of the things I know that a lot of persons have started to do across the country is, people have started to have their little cultivation in their own little yard space, plant a pepper here, plant a, tomato there. And that certainly, can go far when it shows that it's something I've encouraged. People, we all need to we all need to, plant a little bit here and there around our own steps and around our own yard to help out. Because, if you plant something, that's one thing less to buy. I know, for example, Anita, and I must say hello to my beautiful wife, Anita. Anita has explored beautifully with baking. I am happy. She has been exploring everything, and I know you have been very sad because she sends you her brother, the photos, and you get terribly mad.
You guys are very, very cruel. Let me tell you what it is. So we're in the midst of the studio. Kevin and ourselves, everybody is there. We working hard. Nobody had anything feed for a long time. And then Anita comes up, pushes up the picture of some nice bakes or whatever it is that she's doing. Fruit salad, a whole set of smoothies, and nothing for us down in the studio. So that's very, very cruel. I must tell you that.
But to come back to the question, and the caller that called in from the US just now, to that caller, I'll say, sir, I would want to humbly but persistently disagree with you. Wealth, the aspect of wealth is not a matter of who has more dollar bills in their hands, but maybe, but that's another discussion. I would love to have a discussion with you one-on-one, maybe a day. We can talk about the whole aspect of wealth. But the caller also mentioned that politicians, do not touch the Exxon contracts because. But here is the other way to look at it, sir. From an economics, finance, investor standpoint. So let us say, Digicel and GT&T and other investors who have come to Guyana, they've invested. Governments try to help them because the investment's supposed to be good for the country. Governments usually rarely would interfere with the investor, with the investors and the investor contract, even though if the contract is very bad. The GT&T contract, for example, is a 40-year monopoly. The United States government is not going to touch it, and the Guyana government has not been able to break it. But it does not change or stop bilateral agreements between the United States and Guyana, or multilateral agreements between Guyana and any other country.
Right.
That would also have a relationship with the United States. So there may be many ways to look at these things, but one would not look at Exxon from the perspective of the United States or Canada, wherever they are from, would not say anything. And we got to realize too that a lot of these countries, they're trading on the stock exchange. So their investors or their shareholders' fortune is much dependent on how the stock exchange is performing. And so a month ago, Leonard, when world market price for oil went down, Exxon and everybody felt it. In fact, there was some resignations of persons high up in those companies. So it goes both ways. What has to happen is that Guyana, I want to contract you, and I am Guyana, then I have to ensure I use everybody around me to get the best deal out, because you are not going to, you want the best deal for yourself. I must want the best deal for myself as well. It must be a win-win, not a win-lose. Unfortunately, this government, this current government, the incumbent, the one that is squatting in power, it has signed some very rotten deals, very much like its predecessors. It has signed some rotten deals that, look, Glenn spends a lot of his time and has, Kiana is doing a wonderful job in exploring everything with his oil contract. And we got to look at it because it is bad for Guyana. But who signed it for Guyana? It is Guyanese that did it. It is Guyanese. Let me just say this in closing, Leonard, and you would bear this out. You are part of the Cultural News crew. We employed consultants to advise us what's the best contract to sign, what's the best local content policy to sign. And you know what we did? Overnight, Exxon called one of us, and we gone to their meeting, and we dumped all the advice that we paid money for. We dump it aside, and we gone and we signed the paper that people put in front of we. That is what has happened here. And that's why they have lost power. That's one of the reasons, because people in this country are not ignorant. They know what is happening.
One of these days, we're going to bring Kiana upstairs, and Kiana will
Certainly.
work. And I agree with you, York. Fantastic job by Kiana. Team, especially Glenn, has been very much insistent that we pay very close attention to our natural resources, to the money that is coming in and how it's being spent. He wants to ensure that we get value for the money. So the reporters have been, how you say it, tormented by him. Whole day, whole night, he would say, keep on this, keep on this. He's very, very focused on that, how the money is being spent. He's very focused on that oil deal, which would have given us 2%, and all the other conditions which would have come with that Exxon oil deal. When you look at it, when you compare it, when you look at Exxon's track record, it is unbelievable that we would allow ourselves, lawyers sitting in, we're looking at this thing here, and then you would not look at what are the best practices, what other countries are doing, and try to get us the best deal. So there's a lot of things that people, the language, the kind of language that should be told to the people is that if you have gold in your backyard, and a man comes in and a man says, I'm going to give you what I feel like for the gold in the backyard, and you better take it. And we have 5 other people who is going to give you triple or 10 times the amount that you could probably get, not because you explore and you found it. I'd have to bend over backward and give you a ridiculous thing that is one of the worst deals in the world. That does not make sense. Where were the advisors? Where were the lawyers? What was the push or the speed that would force you to sign something when you could probably wait a month or two, talk to the Guyanese people and say, look, this is what I have. This is what we're going to sign. Do you agree or don't you agree? But no, we had a couple of representatives that did not even liaise with us, but they went to Texas, Houston, Texas, and they signed a deal. You hear the stories coming out. I think it was that company that did an investigation. I can't remember the top of my thing, but there was a big report that came out, how they were private jets and they kept them over there and they pushed them around and then they forced them to sign, which is, kind of, that's what this insinuation is, that we were badly overplayed. We did not listen to advice, and there's an indication.
Leonard, would you, Leonard Gildarie, walk into a boxing ring with one of the top heavyweight fighters?
Isn't that the whole point? Isn't that the whole point? Right.
But you would prepare. At the worst, man, you would want to wrap yourself with a steel suit or something, but you would be prepared. You know you are going to get trillions of dollars. Why not? And remember, it is a case where they did employ consultants. They chose to leave the consultants' report aside. And you walk into a room and the people tell you, sign here. I would walk out and say, you sign on my sheet of paper. You need my oil as much as I need you to drill my oil.
But yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
One of the things that really, really aches me out of this entire thing, and I'm talking oil because people don't understand. I think when they start waking up and understand that this oil is like the house and the property and whatever, then it belongs to them, then you can see the eyes going to open big and say, yes, I should have opened my mouth or talking, at least get some advice. Imagine you and I enter a partnership, right? And then I said, okay, after all expenses and everything, because that's what it is. The Exxon deal is a partnership with Guyana. I can produce the oil for you as Exxon, and after expense, we give you 50-50. But then the first thing that I do is give you a bill, 900 and something million US dollars. It's 900 and something million US dollars. It's $1 billion US dollars. I can't remember. I guess our budget is what? We'd have to relook at that. But here the thing is with that. Before we even do anything, I give you a bill for 900 and something million US dollars and say, well, before we drill for oil, this is all my expense. They turn around on top of that and give you a bill for 3-point-something billion dollars. They say, you see that ship that come there, that FPSO, that platform that's going to produce oil, it's going to cost you $3.6 billion. $3.6 billion. So if you don't ask, how did you, Yog Mahadeo or Gildarie, come up with $3.6 billion? And you don't ask that question, what does that make you? or you don't
Yeah,
have the
exactly.
auditors to go through it and say, okay, the ship costs $1 billion. It takes so. Let's make a comparison to something similar, which would have been done in Africa for something similar to like this, which would have cost or which would be producing 120,000 barrels per day. Uh, okay, it cost them $1 billion. How did you come up with 3 point something billion dollars? Do we know whether such questions were asked? The other side to that, the issue of flaring with the environmental thing that came up the other day. You know what's shocking about that, Yog? They said the flaring alone, the amount of flaring alone, what they would have done was equivalent in one day to the burning of a forest the size of Georgetown. I think
Yep.
that is. I think there's a parallel I want to draw there. So many questions about what belongs to us, and we have not gotten the answers to it. So oil is something that could make us very rich, or we could remain where we beg in World Bank, and we beg in the rest of the people for money right now, while we have money there to sit in, and we have gotten such a. Let me don't use that word. We've gotten such a poor deal that we can't even open our mouth because we have tied ourselves like the GT&T. GT&T should be ashamed of itself because of that service that they're giving to the people of Guyana. They're very upset. I think Glenn is not going to say anything. I think they pulled our ads. They're ads from Kaiser News because we dare criticize them. That's okay. GT&T, God bless you. Yog, before we go to the
Well,
lines, anything?
Leonard, yes. I mean, one of the amazing things that's happened is that the politicians lie, and they lie blatantly, and they double down and triple down on their lies. Look, you recall we had a conversation in room 592. Now it seems so long ago, right? When one of the APNU AFC's supporters said a bad deal is okay. It's okay to have a bad deal. You believe that? I was stunned when I heard it. So what is a bad deal? In this case, a bad deal is that these people have come into your country. They have taken everything. It's like you have your home and somebody walk in and they take away all your chairs and your carpet and your stove and your fridge and everything from their home. And they're gone. And when you protest, they come back and say, okay, here's what, we'll remove all the windows. You protest, they come back and say, we're going to now remove all the walls. So you only have the posts and your roof. And then what happened? They come the next day and say, well, the roof is ours too because you didn't read clause so we got a roof as well. Literally, they have taken everything. And meanwhile, stealing an election, they sell out the land that you build your house onto and you didn't even know. So Leonard, the people of Guyana has lost everything, and we don't even know. And when we speak out, we are being criticized. The other thing I want to tell you, talking about double down. Granger said the other day, he is satisfied. He is satisfied with Kate Lowenfield's performance. He is satisfied with, who is he to the GCOM? Isn't it the same man said he's not interfering with GCOM? But he is satisfied with Keith Lowenfield's performance. When you go question him, oh, I will wait, they're doubling down. Another minister, we have tapes of him saying that he believed he lost the election. When interviewed with somebody else, said, no, I never said so. That is an absolute lie. You know, it's amazing that they think the people are dunces and the people can't think for themselves, Leonard. And the saddest thing is you look at them, you look at some of them, you know, just having the brazen face and thinking they could continue to lie. And obviously they believe their own lies, but they believe you have to believe it. And if you don't believe it, they'll beat you on the head until you believe it.
Well, it looks as if Becky Etwara, how you doing, Becky? Becky says, Gildarie, back home we made chicken pepper pot for my mom. Well, I'm just kidding. You can make pepper pot with anything. I think it's the bits and pieces of everything. You can make it whatever. But I think there were a lot of friendly banter when Gordon Ramsay came. and there was this widely reporting that he was making chicken pepper pot. I think everybody was just poking fun at him, but the good thing is that he's doing a show representing Guyana, going to be on, I think, National Geographic. So, Yoga, we go to the lines very quickly. Good afternoon, caller, you on the air.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon, caller, you on the air.
This is...
Yes, it is
Hi.
Kaicho Radio. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
This question I would like to ask is concerning Gaisuku. For a long while now, Gaisuku is always asking for money. But then I could remember in 2015, these politicians, when they were campaigning, they were saying Gaisuku, right, it's just towards Gaisuku. But then, after these politicians going to government, we are hearing that they are saying that it is unfair to use taxpayer money to bail out Gaisuku. This is just before the forest estate was to close. So the question I would like to ask, now you're hearing, is it fair to use taxpayer money to do the things which is not necessary? And as Mr. Yog says, sugar is always bringing in foreign currency. We all know that. Look, I worked with Gaisuku for over 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see when the next government goes into power, they don't appoint their friends in Gaisuku who don't have any qualification about agriculture. If they have, well, that would be good. And I think Gaisuku can be saved, but there need to be a pay cut, especially from the top, those super salaries. So many allowances can be cut. Because most time when they cut, it's from the small people, many who are working in the field. So they also need to look to contract given out. Who it's given to if there is a drawback happening. And when the next government going, bring back and more sugar estate, because I am seeing workers are leaving till and more and going to IFLOT to work. Oh my, that's unfair. And you know what? I have two more questions to ask, but it would be a next time because I want my fellow friends to have the opportunity. I have a question about NIS and ExxonMobil, but in the future, I will try to get on back to you all, and thank you very much. So that is my question, what I have to say.
Thank you very much, caller. And Gaisuku is very, very dear to us in terms of how they're spending that money. We've been hearing from time to time that contracts being given out by Gaisuku, that there may be questions over that. And of course, if you continually giving Gaisuku money, billions of dollars pouring that in, you want to know how the monies are being spent. I think the last time I heard that they said they have over $2 billion that they owe suppliers right now that they need to pay. But some very good points by that caller there.
Yes, Leonard. Specifically to address the question, what has happened, unfortunately, caller, what has happened at Gaisuku? And this is not just within this last 5 years, it's been happening for many, many years. The politicians have directed things at Gaisuku, including fiscal matters. And that has had a deleterious effect. It has had a sad, brought the company down to its knees. This is since 1980s, since way before, since nationalization, in fact. The politicians have tried to control. So the board of Gaisuku are not allowed to be like a board of a corporate that wants to look after sheer business. The board of Gaisuku is under the directorate of politicians. And so invariably, it makes decisions and awards contracts and do things so as to satisfy political thinking. And I'm not saying that is right or wrong. Sometimes the political thinking has to also be taken cognizance of. So, for example, if you are selling and if you're wanting to start up a relationship with a particular country, and the politicians go and they negotiate with Venezuela or Brazil, and they tell guys, so okay, here is what we have: a market opening up to 300 bags or 300 tons, of sugar to Venezuela. Gaisuku would now have to take that as a political directorate, which Gaisuku may not agree with. It would have to work out its dollars and cents,
Right.
cents, SENSE, in terms of making those decisions. So invariably, the politicians are going to have or ought to have some strategic relationship with Gaisuku. But when it comes to determining other things in Gaisuku, it's where the problem comes. When it comes to determining who must get a fertilizer contract and who must get a low-grade phosphate contract and who must get, stuff that are the bigger contracts, then it becomes contentious. Also, when politicians are going to start to use the assets of Gaisuku, using its staff houses and using staff clubs and stuff like that, it is really, really bad. But Leonard, Gaisuku's problem is manifold. One is there is a political problem. Two, there is a problem with getting skills. So to get people to operate, and the caller mentioned, for example, the fancy money being paid or being earned by the executives. So if you have to compete, if you have to bring a guy from Belize who runs or who is manager of the factory in Belize, he's not going to come to Guyana unless you give him the kind of salary he would have earned in Belize to do the same work. So there is another way to look at the salaries as well. The other thing that you got to look at, Leonard, Gaisuku has had a problem of also motivation and inspiration and all kinds of human resource issues. I don't want to make light of it, but there is a problem, a historical problem, where workers themselves, I have known of this, I've worked at Gaisuku for many years, where workers themselves, I mean, you pay a group of persons to go and, for example, do chemical application in the field. And they go and they dump the chemicals and they do nothing. Now, what happens? You would have to later, so those canes will be affected. The long-term effect of the land, 4 or 5 crops later, if you're going to allow the crop to continue beyond the 3 years or beyond the 3 crops. The problem is manifold, therefore. The other thing we have had GAU on this program. And unions in Guyana have also contributed. In a way, I'm not beating them up, but they've contributed in a way to the decline because somehow or the other, union representatives become, a political figure. And they influence sometimes undue burden upon the workers or upon the company for the way they work. People have to realize that the Gaisuku's success can only be achieved by the employees, the employer, the politicians, and the investors sharing a strategic view for the betterment of the company. Other than that, it is not going to happen. Finally, I'll say that one must continue to appreciate the value of a company like Gaisuku from a sheer holistic economic perspective, in terms of its drainage and irrigation, in terms of having a value of the land and keeping the land under cultivation. Leonard, if the land becomes forested and the land is not kept under care, what happens ultimately? Because we have seen what could happen very quickly if you do not keep a land under cultivation. So there are many things, and Gaisuku's solution, unfortunately, here is one of the most unfortunate things that's happened. Because APNU, AFC, PNC closed down, let's say, Skellen Estate, Skellen Factory.
Right.
It is going to be an extremely difficult job for the next government to start it up with any speed. It has to really take its time, and that is what will be one of the painful things for Irfan Ali's government, because people are going to expect an overnight solution, and this current government has really put us in the doghouse where Gaisuku is concerned. So it is not going to be easy, and I do not envy the next government's job in resuscitating Gaisuku, Leonard. In the meanwhile, remember, our shortfall, in other words, where we were selling sugar to, They ain't waiting on us anymore, you know. They're getting their sugar from elsewhere. So even the marketing, there will be an issue. We gotta really embrace this thing with a complete 360-degree view and go at it from scratch. And that is going to take time and a lot of guts and a lot of money.
But I agree with you, and an uphill task. It's going to be difficult, and I agree with you. Everybody got to be all hands on deck to tackle something like Gaisuka, a monster we've created, what it is today. People will be willing to help the new government. Will the new government be willing to oblige? I think the PPP shares the same culture as the PNC, jobs and positions for the boys or cronies. Consequently, the system becomes tough with square pegs in wrong holes. Hence, the system underperforms. I think this is a very good comment, and I think this is reflective of what we would have seen and what would have been raised, and a point that was made time and again by Dr. Yog Mahadeo and myself too. People have been writing about this, about us as a government given to people who are not qualified to do the job. And so when they screw up, we have ourselves to blame, but we haven't been blaming anybody except pointing fingers in the other direction. So, Yog, there is a comment here. There's an allegation that the supermarket food vouchers, I think this is the public assistance vouchers, which we've heard so much about going around, and it's there's a hidden petition. They're making you sign. Is there any truth to this? Do we have any idea about that? I know there were some rumors. I don't know.
We'll certainly check out, because a lot of persons from the communities are contacting us, and people from various areas are contacting. So we can certainly check it out.
Yes, and of course today we'd want to say hello to Annette Arjun Martins. How you doing, Annette? Annette has been a very loyal follower, faithful follower of us. I think somebody says that they have given her some kind of award for
Well,
following Kaitor News,
I
Kaitor
wish
Radio.
I wish to humbly correct you, my brother and friend.
Yes.
Annette Arjun is not a follower. Annette Arjun is working as hard as us, because she is the one that is our go-to person to have our discussions on the environment. And unfortunately, let me make a public apology to Annette and her colleagues. Because of this political situation, we did not have our room 592 last month, sorry. We are supposed to have had it every second Monday. We did not get our discussion on the environment, on oil, and all of that last month. The way things are going this month, politics seems to be kicking everything underfoot. So I want to congratulate Annette for being there and being a soldier, being a champion for Guyana's environment.
Mm-hmm. And so before we go to the line, Yoga, yes, and Annette has been such a warm lady. Her husband, the Trade Winds guy, Dave Martins, if you're listening to us, sir, what an icon. Good music. You ever listen to what's a favorite Trade Wind song, Yog?
You want me to say it? Not to blade the grass. There's so many.
I think somebody should be listening to the one about. He's a wicked fellow.
He did some masterpieces with a lot of wit and humor, right?
Yes, I think the one with the two of them on top of the suitcase. I think that was one. If you listen to it and the way that there was a lot of wicked laughter in his voice, I think when he was singing that song.
Yes, and the chickens, the roosters.
Yes,
but he did sing a lot of songs that speaks of Guyana, and it become part of the Guyana's songs and our folklore basically now, because you can hardly we all grew up with Not a Blade of Grass.
Did he ever receive a national award? I can't remember. Did he?
Dave, if you're listening, when I become the president, that will be one of my first things that I'll do.
Thank you very much. I say His Excellency. Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, guys. Yog was talking a little while ago about politicians lying. And what is funny is at the same time I came across an interview with Fazir Mohammed and Kemraj Ramzatan. You know, that man blatantly lied when he asked if he did indeed admit that he lost the elections. We all heard the recording. Kaichur News even carried the article. These people are just so amazing. They have no shame, no decency, absolutely no honesty. I didn't listen to that one there. I'm going to have to listen to that. There's a caller in line? Yes, caller. You on the air? Good afternoon. Think we lost that one. Uh, uh, Let me see. Somebody is watching from Linden. I want to say hello to Linden. Uh, Thank you, York, for explaining. But I think if the other nations so care about Guyanese people, they should also help protect the people of Guyana. I'm not sure what you're referring there to, York. Other nations so care about Guyanese people, they should help protect the people of Guyana. Maybe, Yog, we'd have to talk about the role of the countries abroad, our donor partners and others with whom we would have had bilateral arrangements with. What is the role of countries abroad? And of course, maybe you'd want to give us very quickly. We are all part of different organizations, like we're part of CARICOM, Commonwealth. Maybe we could remind our viewers or people of Guyana as to what are some of the benefits of being part of those organizations and what are some of the commitments that we would make. And then when it comes to other country protecting us, it's an interesting conversation to have because we have obligations towards the world. We're not alone. If we trade in, we have to ensure that our goods are good, our food is safe. These are our arrangements. If we're part of CARICOM, there's certain rules that we'd have to abide by. Like, for example, if the region is producing things like cement, you just can't bring cement from overseas, like for Australia, and sell it in the Caribbean, just like that. There are taxes that would automatically have to happen. And this is all part of the measures to protect our local, our regional producers. But quickly, Yogi, maybe we could throw some light on what that person texting would have said.
Well, I think that might have been in reference to what we said about when companies, I think that was the one person that would have said that in signing a Exxon contract, the politicians are not going to speak against it and so forth. And our response was that, business has its own operating levels. But, at the end of the day, this message speaks to something that one could take for a different discussion as well. There is human rights concerns for the world. Leonard, you remember when that human train, they had called it, I think, across Latin America was approaching the Mexican-American border?
Yes.
The border? The caravan, sorry. Yes. The caravan, they called it. Human rights issue, the world takes notice of it. And unfortunately or fortunately, it has to happen after something. So the world, for example, Leonard, will not take or impose sanctions against Guyana. And this is one of the reasons why Granger is just delaying this thing. Because if Granger were to say tomorrow, I don't care what GCOM says, I am going to be president, that's it. Sanctions. Until that moment, it's not going to happen because nothing has been done. And he keeps saying, it's GCOM, it's GCOM, it's GCOM. Meanwhile, on the other side, he's praising Lowenfield. Good job, boy. Keep on doing that. Good job. So I hope that answers the question, unless I missed the import of it, and we can always deal with it some other time, Leonard.
Thank you very much, there. And there's a caller online there, Raj? Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I would just like to ask a question. Now, the Secretary of State put out a question on sometime yesterday. Would it mean these devils inside here, if they're out of power, they can still be sanctioned individually?
Good question. Any other questions? We can answer you off here.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, sir. This was this was a question that I did ask Sanjeev Dattadin this afternoon. If the Secretary of State would have instructed the State Department to start taking actions against those responsible for thwarting democracy in Guyana, thwarting the will of the people. What happens if the coalition or whoever is being accused of doing certain things wrong? What happens if they stop doing it and the elections, the results come out, there's a declaration, president is sworn in based on that declaration? Does it stop the process at the State Department? And Sanjeev Dattarin
Yes,
says yes,
yes,
it
yes.
stops
It
it.
does. It does stop international action as long as the will of the electorate is followed and a new government is sworn in based on the recount results. Then yes, that is a big, huge step, and we can move on from. But it does not, and it can never stop the right of access of the people of this country to our judiciary, to our courts. And I think people of this country must realize the powers that you have, we have in our hands to take legal action against any theft of state assets, any post-election abuse of taxpayers' money. Let a court tell us that we are out of order, but we have every right of access to the courts of Guyana to take action, Leonard.
Thank you very much, Yog. This evening in room 592, I'm looking forward to that one there. I think you have a very special guest. He's always one for a good conversation and
Absolutely.
sometimes unpredictable. But you want to tell us a little bit of that?
Sure. I mean, look, one cannot undervalue at all, underestimate at all the value that Freddie Kisoon brings to any discussion and any argument. Freddie is a Guyanese icon. People may not. We don't all have to agree, and we don't have to disagree negatively. We can disagree and agree to disagree. But Freddie is a Guyanese icon. He has been he has been one of the persons I would say that would have influenced many of us, Leonard, to speak out, to speak out openly and to speak out without fear of recriminations from the politicians. Freddie has lived by his own creed in terms of speaking up, speaking out, and he says openly, you can disagree with me. That is your right, but here are my views, and you can have your views and you can voice your views. So Freddie will be joining us in room 592 tonight. Unfortunately, it might be via telephone, but certainly the conversations and the discussion tonight will be, really to the literal sense of unleashing the truth, which is what we do in room 592 every night.
Thank you very much. I am looking forward to that. That should be very hot because he has his own opinion. I still got to talk to him. I think he still has what the Guyanese people know as a mango pelter. The guy refuses to upgrade to a smartphone. Man, what are you asking me? Call me on the phone. So Yog, you're right. The biggest impact will be on food. This is a comment here. Guyana could benefit from this with the agriculture sector in Canada. Our food bill has doubled or tripled. I was in Guyana a few months ago and I was very surprised to see how flooded the market was with imported goods that could easily be produced in Guyana. For example, simple things like jam, peanut butter, juice coming from Trinidad and Tobago and other Caribbean countries encourage your viewers to buy local for starters. I like that call. What is the role of the diaspora? Many of us are rearing at the bits to assist. And speaking for myself, for no personal gain, where are we at with that? What is the role of the diaspora? Many of us are rearing, I think he copied himself there. I understand that, Yoga, very good point there. We should look at building our own capacity here. We have a lot of good food here, Yoga. Some of the best. I've gone all over, drank coconut water. I think we got the sweetest coconut water here. I think they got to find some way of capturing that. I think there's a couple locals who've been trying to do Starland products, I think, would have started. I think the Pomeroon, somewhere in the Pomeroon there, a couple of gentlemen, I think Falcock, Group and Ramutar would have started something as well. So we have lots of good things here. I even saw somebody do coconut choker, Balanje choker. They have these things ready that you could buy it from the supermarket. So and then we've started. So we have a lot of products here. It's just that we got to start instead of importing our food. We could start looking at how we could get it a lot of good food, local food that we could eat, we could buy. It put money in the pockets of our local people too. So let's start doing things a little differently. Maybe we could plant our own Instead of potato, we do a little Edo. But I think we could plant potato. Somebody was experimenting with it. I think they did the cauliflower as well as the carrots, something else, broccoli. I think somebody was doing broccoli to Yog. So I think Aditya, maybe one of these days we get Pandit Aditya, who's also a farmer who's been doing very well. In fact, he has been having these things prepared that you could freeze the vegetables in packets. He's been selling to supermarkets and so fresh vegetables. So there's some entrepreneurs who has really capitalized on it. I think we could do a little more as to how we get our produce instead of selling it raw, whole like that. We could probably have it in a way that people could pick it up, put it in the freezer right away. Don't have to worry about cleaning or anything. Need to start looking in that direction.
Guyana has a lot of potentials, Leonard. No two ways about it. Immense potential. And I tell you what, my response to that caller is that you are right. I mean, Guyanese seems to be we're very foreign minded. We like to eat a lot of foreign products. It's a Caribbean thing. I mean, I think you go anywhere across the world, people like to have what the other person is using over there. But here is where there is uniqueness. All the people outside, they want the Guyanese stuff. So we need to rev up our economy, get our stuff in gear, and start to put things in place to make the small industries empowered for export, Leonard. I mean, we have so much capacity here that we're not capitalizing on. And while remember the local market is small, we're 700,000, 750,000, 800,000 people. But look at the population of the Caribbean. Look at the population of Brazil next door to us, of Venezuela, of the USA. All the coconut water you mentioned, it is excellent coconut water.
Oh yes.
And it is being exported, and a lot of people over there are enjoying it. So we got to do more of that. I remember, Leonard, I remember I was once head of the Matching Grants Initiative in Guyana, where we were using some IDB funds or World Bank funds, I can't remember which one it was, to help local industries, local small producers. I think the monies that was being made available was up to $3 or $5 million or under $3 million, I think, Guyanese dollars, that is. But it was to help small and small startup local companies to get themselves HACCP certified, because for you to export, your production and production systems need to be certified.
Right.
Unfortunately, what's happened, I think there were 3 or 5 of 40 or 50 companies that wanted to go through the certification process. And what they end up doing, we all end up blaming the government. But so there sometimes there is things that is available for us to do that you cannot blame the government. You got to pick it up and go. And why I said that, Leonard, because one cannot underestimate the impact investment will have on this country. If we get this horror, this nightmare of elections out of the way, you will see the impact of the private sector, of investment, of economic growth. It will just take off.
Yeah, and you're right, Yog, but our people got to start changing their attitude too. And this is by no means disrespectful. It is just an encouragement. We have to be very strong about it and call it as it is. We're not treating this COVID-19 thing right. We're still doing the madness that we would see in other areas. We also have to change the way that we do business generally, which is what Yog is saying. In the way that we approach it, we got to seek advice. We got to look at ways how we could build capacity right along the line from bottom up and ensure that whatever we do is in keeping with international standards, because that would be the ultimate goal. We need to export our produce. We have many things here that we could do in order to do that. And there are funding available. There are things that pushes up to increase our capacity. I have an issue with the police at Blairmont Station where the police took bribes and they hid a serious matter. Please tell me where I could seek justice. I could tell you the person that sent this message to us, that you could make a complaint to the commander in the area if you believe that the commander is not going to give you justice. In Evelary, between the two cannons, there's a police complaints authority. There's a former judge who heads the police complaint authority. I think it is Justice Ramlal, William Ramlal. I could say that the Kaichur News has told you that you could go there. Kaichur Radio, Dr. Yog Mahadeo and myself, Leonard Gildarie, to go there and make a complaint. I think he has been making it very clear that he treats every matter very seriously, and if it's a matter of bribe, that falls right within the police complaints authority. If you're listening to us, take it right there. In Evelary, where the two cannons is, where the police commissioner's offices is right next door to that, right in the same compound. You could take it there. So, Yoga, as we prepare for this evening, Freddie Kisoon is going to be with us via the phone. So we have many questions to ask him, and of course, in his ways, very unique ways, he's going to bring us his thoughts on the various issues confronting this country at the moment. And of course, elections 2020 is going to be dominating all of that. Good afternoon. I think when all is said and over with election and COVID-19, a documentary should be made to educate the future generations about its troubled time in Guyana's history. Mr. Mahadeo can be one of the participants in that documentary along with yourself. I know about that. You look like talk. I think he looked nice in a suit. And other persons who notably stood up for democracy during this time. Have a good day, gentlemen. God bless you both. God bless you too, whoever it is. This is something that's pretty interesting. Maybe we could do something that chronicles this madness which is characterized in the last 4 months. It's July the 2nd today. We'd recall 4 months ago we would have had the March 2nd elections, which would have been kickstarted by that December the 24th no confidence motion in the National Assembly, which the one-seat government who would have lost the no confidence motion. Of course, they fought that in court. It went all the way to the CCJ, where the crux of the matter was 33 bigger than 32. And it all came down to, elections 2020. Elections 2020, 4 months later, no president, no National Assembly. Our country is slowly imploding while COVID-19 is upon us. I hope that I would have been able to sum it up for you in just over a year. 6 months have passed since that. I think it's more than 6 months, a year and 6 months, 18 months, since that no confidence motion. So let's keep the timeline very tight. I think had we been using those time to really lift ourselves, lift our lives, we could have been in a much better position. We wasted 18 months because of what? It's a rhetorical question. I don't ask you to answer. There's a caller line? Please. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
I'll have 2 questions and make a couple comments, and then let's hear comments off here.
Thank you, sir.
The first one is to Mr. Gildarie. What did CDC say about the vouchers that they advertised about, and how is it being distributed, and if it is being distributed? The second one is to Mr. Yog. As a citizen, I will not call the names of the stations on here because you're being monitored. How is it that there's an online radio station being uploaded to my national network to propagate whatever crap they're propagating? Is the person paying for the hour, the 2 hour they're being there, is they going to be held accountable? If so, I would like to find out who is going to do that. When it comes to the COVID-19, we seem to lost the task force, and that is the problem. I don't always agree with everything Mr. Yoke says, but at the end of the day, when you make a political task force, they cannot be speaking now because for some reason they lost. So I agree that people are supposed to take the personal responsibility, but when we're not hearing anything from this task force, they're not giving public updates, advisories, this is what we're doing, this is what we're planning. There's not a word about a plan for the future in COVID. Not out of COVID, because every projection shows this is a year or 2 more. And there needs to be something to put this country back to work with guidelines and understanding of how we're going to operate. As it relates to Mr. Pompeo's statement, one of the things that people need to take into consideration, whether the government changes or not, the sanctions will drop. But one of the things nobody ever wants their name to end up on a certain list in the U.S. State Department because it is there for future reference for anything, whether anybody on that list go to apply for an international job, go to anywhere in the world to do anything, that name is listed, and even though sanctions was in place, the questions come up why it was on that list. Guyanese fail to understand what the State Department means. It means it's the foreign ministry compared to ours. It means that when sanctions pass, it means that trade is affected, education is affected, loans is affected, and everything is affected. Even when it becomes personal sanctions and people decide that they don't care, they have to put their names up there in office on certain things when they apply, or when they're buying, or when they're selling. And as long as their name is there, that transaction cannot be completed. So whether I agree with Mr. Pompeo or not, and whether this government is right or not, it is not a good thing for no country. We all need to understand that. Thank you very much. I'll listen for the answer to my two questions after.
Thank you very much, dear caller. As usual, right on spot. I'm not sure, Yog. I would love to read that gentleman sometime or the other. He says he's a security guard. I don't believe him. Whatever it is, he's been making a very valuable contribution towards COVID-19 elections watch. In any case, gentlemen, with regards to the question with the COVID-19 public assistance program, there was a statement that came out from the government about 2 days back talking about the public notice. I did receive a call from somebody who wasn't sure. They're saying that persons interested in receiving public assistance can download the application forms at the Ministry of Social Protection website, and they could make some contacts with some numbers. It's listed in Wednesday's newspaper. I could probably put it up on my Facebook and you could get it there. It's a lot of numbers that we'd have to call out. But to answer the question, they were saying that these COVID-19 public assistance vouchers, they did some applications. 1,700 persons initially were eligible for vouchers on the coastline, and then for the hinterlands, they're going to get package hampers. And so if you have received a voucher, I don't know of anybody who has received a voucher, but if you have, you guys take a picture, send it to us, and let's have a look. Maybe see what supermarkets have been selected. But they're saying that if you've received it, once you receive your voucher, select a supermarket of your choice as listed on the voucher. Call the supermarket 24 hours before you intend to collect the items that you have to purchase. Then on the following day, you will visit the supermarket along with a voucher and ID card, and you will present it there, and you will be given a package containing the items covered by the voucher. You will be required to sign some other things to say that you've collected it, and so that in itself is with regards to the COVID-19. We'll continue to ask the Ministry of Social Protection and others to be on the program here to talk a little more about how a person could go ahead and apply. But the persons have been complaining, though, Yog, very quickly to you before I ask you to take over. People have been complaining about the difficulty in applying. It says that when you go onto the website, the Ministry of Social Protection website, you go through the process, and those are people who have access to the internet. It hangs you up somewhere along the way, so that's something that we'd have to look at. But apparently the process is not allowing everybody to get in. We'd have to talk to the officials about how they intend to capture those persons who are not able to access or apply online. Over to you, Yog.
Thank you, Leonard. To specifically address what a caller would have mentioned, that is a very important point, and indeed, APNU AFC airing any content, they need to collect the revenues for airing any private content. NCN. Airing any is a state asset. NCN is a state television system, state television company, and anything they air from any private entity, whether it PPP or PNC or APNU AFC, they need to collect their revenues. And I'm glad you raised that, caller, because certainly we will be asking those questions. And I know my brother here is a senior journalist. So, Leonard, I'm going to put that one right into your lap, my friend, for us to find out whether NCN would have collected the revenues for airing the APNU AFC programs. Leonard, if I may, I just want to share with everyone. So tonight we're going to have Freddie Kissoon in our room 592. So it's a big, big night tonight. And tomorrow is a big night as well. Tomorrow, for those of you who don't know, please Google it. But tomorrow night we're going to have a gentleman who's extremely well respected and extremely outspoken on matters of human rights and matters of national interest and everything. Tomorrow night, we're actually going to have attorney at law, Mr. Selwyn Peters,
Interesting,
joining us as our guest in room 592. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a exciting couple of days ahead for you. Tonight, Freddie Kissoon. Tomorrow night, Mr. Selwyn Peters. Over to you, Len.
Thank you very much, Yog. Unfortunately, today, like every single day, Yog, it's always been a pain for us to say goodbye to our people. But guess what? We're going to be back 7:30 to take on Freddie Kissoon. Should be an interesting conversation with him because in his own way, he brings an interview to life very, very quickly. So I want to say thank you very much to all our people who have joined us right across this beautiful land, and of course overseas, wherever you tuning in us from. And of course, from people at Kaichor here, Kaichor Radio, Raj and Kevin and Joshua, they want to say to you that we're also coming to you live on YouTube. So you go Kaichor Radio on YouTube and you should be able to find us there. We're coming to you there. So if you don't want to do the Facebook, you could do the YouTube, and you could also subscribe to us. They're saying that you guys are not tuning in there. So it's there, same video you're looking at YouTube, maybe even on Facebook. It's even better. So thank you very much. We're going to be back with you this evening at 7:30 p.m. sharp. Dr. Yog Mahadeo is going to be leading the way in room 592 with raising issues of elections and other important matters when it comes to Guyana. And of course, it would be remiss of me to say that it's been 4 months now with Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and it has been a pleasure, my brother. Some days I get mad at you because you carry on, you really carry on very passionately, and I say, but why does he have to be so blatant about it? Can't he be a little more diplomatic? Because as a newspaper, sometimes you have to be careful with your words. You have to sit on the fence with a lot of stuff unless you write in opinion pieces or so that you would have some level of or leg room to play around with. But that's a conversation for another time. Thank you very much, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and of course, everybody who've joined us. And thank you very much to our technical people in our studio. Have a pleasant rest of the afternoon.
COVID-19 tips sponsored by Dex Soap. 1. Practice social distancing. 2. Wear your mask when leaving the house. 3. Wash your hands regularly for 20 seconds using our Dex Soap. 4. Cover your nose and mouth with a disposable tissue or flex elbow when you cough or sneeze. Choose Dex Soap for that extra cleanliness. Dex Soap is affordable and available nationwide.
The following is a message from Dr. Irfan Ali.